All right, well, speaking of Antifa that we were just talking about, I don't know if you saw over the weekend, but there was a rally of some type in Tacoma, Washington. And, of course, there was a police cruiser, an SUV that showed up, had its lights on. And what would you expect one of these rallies or riots? It really wasn't a riot at that point, just to be fair. It was a rally. But, what do they always do when a car pulls up? They surround the car. They start, shaking the car. Yeah, messing with it, and it's just, if you pulled up to one of these situations in your car, you would be freaked out. I would be freaked out. They start banging on the windows. We've seen them bust out the windows of cars. These people have, incendiary devices, Molotov cocktails and things. You don't know if they're going to throw one of those into your car, and we have seen that occur. It doesn't happen all the time, but we have seen them throw those into cars with people actually in them, as well as the parked cars. You see it more commonly in the parked cars with no people in them. But, we have seen them do that kind of thing. They attack these vehicles. We know that some of them have guns in some of these crowds because they've shot people. They've gotten into, small gun battles in the streets. It's just a really dangerous situation. So now if you're a police officer and you pull up to this, and they obviously have no fear of the police, they have no respect for law enforcement, and they surround the vehicle and start agitating. What do you think is going to happen as a police officer? You've got to be, I certainly would be, if I was a police officer, I would be concerned that they were going to do something, attack me, attack my car, bust out the windows, hurt me. And, we got to have some degree of law and order in this society. Now, I'm not in favor of a heavy-handed police response to things, but when they're put in jeopardy, they've got to defend themselves. So this particular person who was driving, and we don't have the details on the officer who was driving, and frankly, it doesn't really matter. The details don't matter. But this person did what I think a lot of people would do if they were in this situation and tried to get out of the situation. Well, what's the only way you get out of the situation? You're not going to get out by opening your car door. You're not going to get out of it that way. That's just going to cause them to pull you out and start beating your head in like we saw happen to other people last summer, as we saw happen years ago. I'm always reminded of the Reginald Denny incident where he was in his semi-truck and there was a rioting going on in Los Angeles after the Rodney King beating, and he was pulled out. And, they bashed his head in with a brick, and he survived, but he had a serious, serious brain injury that affected the whole rest of his life after that. So, anyway, this particular police officer did what I think a lot of folks might be inclined to do when confronted in this type of situation, which is try to get out of the situation. Well, the only way you can get out of it is by stepping on the gas. And, frankly, why do people surround the car like that? They just get out of the way. It's so unnecessary. They want to put all the blame on the police officers, but it's so unnecessary. They didn't create the situation when they pulled up in the police vehicle with the lights on. So it's the people who surrounded the car, started agitating, started acting like they were going to attack the officer. So once that happened, now what do you think the response to that was? It's the same response we always see, Pat George.
Get in front of the car?
No. If you got to watch the video. Have you seen this video?
No.
Okay, you should watch it. The car, actually drives over people.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, it's pretty graphic, and it's, but honestly, what do you expect when you get in front of a vehicle like that and you start accosting the person? That's the only thing that they can really do. And, you've assumed the risk, at least in my opinion, when you do that kind of thing. You're going to get run over, potentially. And we've seen that happen a number of times throughout the summer. That's what you should expect. These people that go and sit down on the interstate to block the traffic, you might get run over. That you don't go in the road. Don't accost a vehicle. Don't stand in front of a car and act like you're going to attack it. We've seen a lot of people with a lot of self-control. We saw some folks in, I think it was Brooklyn, who had a pretty nice car. Apparently, they were pulling some young folks who were on their bicycles. Now, they weren't, voluntarily pulling them. These people on the bicycles grab a hold of your car. Now, I'm not real familiar with this, but this apparently happens in New York. And Roxanne, you're shaking your head.
I've heard stories about this, right,
Yeah.
in big cities.
They
Yeah, you
catch
see
a
people
ride.
do that. Yep.
Yeah, they grab your car and they're
I've
on
seen
their
it.
bike. And,
Mhm.
I've seen it too. And they catch a ride. And so these young individuals apparently, I don't know, something happened, and they felt like the car was disrespecting them and not wanting to give them a ride or something. I mean, obviously it wasn't anything violent. Anyway, they jumped up on the hood of the car and kicked in the people's windshield. I mean, for what? For what? So you should go watch this video where the Tacoma police officer goes out there and drives over part of the crowd. And I see that. We got a call. Anyway, needless to say, Antifa goes into riot mode. They start burning businesses, set a dumpster on fire. About 200 people took to the streets and bashed up at least 10 different businesses. And, that's what Antifa does. That's what we've come to expect from them. They're the domestic terrorists. Thank you for listening to the Morgan Streetman Show. We hope you enjoyed what you heard, and if you did, please click like and subscribe to help us out. And remember that we recommend that you exercise your brain at least once a week.